So you want to get started in TIG welding, but you don't know where to begin. I've got you covered. Today, I'm going to take you through a full beginner's TIG welding setup. What you need to get started, how to plug the equipment in and hook it all up, and how to use it once you've got it all connected. Also, at the end of the video, I'll take you through 5 additional things that would be nice to have, but that you don't need right now to start learning how to TIG weld. Stick with me. We're going to go through all of it, and most importantly, we're going to make it easy. So I'm going to take you guys through the full setup of everything you need to get started TIG welding today. So the best place for us to start is with the machine. This right here is my first TIG welding machine. This is an AHP Alpha TIG 201XD. Their current version, I think they're on to the 203. It's much fancier than this one now. They have a full LCD display. Very cool machines, great company. Whatever their most recent version is the one that I would recommend you get. The reason I say that is because I bought this machine back in 2018 thinking that this would be a good starter machine for me to learn on. And if I ended up getting deeper involved in fabrication and welding, that I would eventually replace this machine with a more capable version from maybe Miller or Lincoln. But here I am in 2023 filming this video with the same welder that I bought back in 2018 for $700. This is a great deal. And as we'll touch on later in some of the features that you want to look for in a welding machine, this is a machine that can do it all. You can do steel, stainless steel, and aluminum, even titanium. You can do it all with this machine. So for $700, I think you cannot go wrong with AHP's current 200 amp AC/DC TIG welder. All right, so here on the bench, we've got all the pieces that the machine comes with. Starting with, we've got our ground clamp. This is what you're gonna hook up to the metal that you're actually trying to weld. Here we've got our TIG torch. This is gonna plug into the front of the machine right here. And then this little guy is the gas line. So this will plug into the front of the machine as well. We'll show you how that hooks up. This is your TIG torch that comes with the machine. It's a 17 series torch, and it's got a flex head on it. So if you need to get into a hard to reach space, you can move this head around in all the different directions. And that is super handy once you get into motorcycles and you're trying to do a hardtail weld like this guy right here, and you need to get up under here and all around. It can be kind of a pain. So very handy to have flex head torch. This is the Superflex cable that the machine comes with. As you can see, it's very pliable. Not all TIG cables are like this. So this is really handy to have something rock solid and flexible to use. This right here is your argon flow meter. So this regulator goes on top of your argon bottle, which I'll show you in a minute. This is a decent one that, again, I thought I would end up replacing this. And I did end up buying a different one, but this one I still use when I do mobile welding. This is a little quick connect. This doesn't come with the actual unit, but this is a quick disconnect so that when I do mobile welding, I can bring just this single flow meter. And like I said, still using it to this day. This is your foot pedal. This is going to make your TIG welding experience so much easier. If you try to learn TIG welding and you don't have the foot pedal because some old timer told you that it's cheating and it's not how you should learn, ignore that. It is a great way to learn. It's a great way to keep yourself from being super frustrated. And once you get into welding on gas tanks, sheet metal, stuff like that, it is a total lifesaver. This is the pedal that came with the machine, not something you have to buy separate. So all included in that $700. In addition to that, you get your stick welding stinger right here. You might not know this, but all TIG welders are also stick welders. So when you're buying this TIG machine, you're also buying a stick machine. This is actually an aftermarket stick stinger. The one that came with the machine, I will say, it's a little cheap. I bought this for, I think, $13 at Harbor Freight, which is also very cheap. And swapped it onto here. But this lead and the connector for the machine, it did come all with the AHP. And then lastly, this is what they call conversion pigtail, right? Here you've got your 220 amp plug because this is a dual voltage machine. You can use 220 or you can plug it into a regular household outlet and run off of 110. Super cool. So the way that works is the machine has the 220 coming off it. You would plug the machine into the pigtail and then the other end of the pigtail into the wall if you wanted to run 110 with it. All right, so now you know everything that comes with the machine. Now I just want to show you how to actually hook it up to these connectors and what everything does. So this right here is your gas line. This is going to receive that gas line from the TIG torch, and on TIG welding, your TIG torch always goes into the negative terminal. So let's go ahead and get that TIG torch hooked up. So this is the adapter that comes with it. This right here is called a DINS connector, which just means it's like a cylinder with this little nub on it. That little nub goes into this cutout. You push that in and then just turn it to the right until it seats. And now you can pull on that, it's locked in. This is where the machine puts the gas out. So this little extended piece goes right into that section, and you'll hear it click in. And that's your TIG torch all hooked up. Next, your ground clamp you want to hook up next. And that, on TIG welding, goes into the positive. It's got the same DINS connector on it, just like the TIG torch does. Goes right in here, and you turn it to the right, and that's it. Now you can pull on it, it's all hooked up. So again, TIG welding, electrode, they call it electrode negative. So you always want your TIG torch plugged into the negative and your ground on the positive. For stick welding, you reverse it. Stick welding, you connect your stick stinger to the positive and your ground to the negative. But we're not doing stick welding right now, so don't sweat that. So here's your TIG torch, here's your ground clamp. Now you've got the connector for your foot pedal. This is a multi-pin connector. It has a little cutout in the top, and there's a little nub at the top of this section here. So you're just going to take this, pop this into here. You can see it pushes right in, and then this is just a little ring that you can spin on, and this will lock the actual connector like that to the machine. So now you've got all your connectors securely attached. That is everything you need to do to hook up your leads and your gear to the actual TIG welder itself. All right, so at this point we covered the machine, all the leads that plug into the machine. So now we're going to move on to the second item, and that is an argon cylinder. So TIG welders use argon to shield the puddle while you're welding so that you don't get porosity in the weld. These argon cylinders you can purchase two different ways. You can either buy the cylinder as a whole unit and you own it, like I have here. This is a 120 cubic foot cylinder. You can also buy them in 80s and in 40s, but the 120 is a good size. You can either buy this as a one-time deal, or you can rent the taller ones that come up to probably the height of these filler wires back here. And those will last you much longer, but you pay a rental fee per year to own them. And for me, I like to just buy the one cylinder, be done with it. This was about 220 bucks for this cylinder. You can buy a smaller one for a little bit less than that. But like I said, the 120 cubic foot is a good one. You get this from your local welding supply shop. You can get it from Airgas, Matheson, Main Oxy, whoever's near you, but try to find a mom and pop shop, because I will say these things can get really expensive if you buy them from Airgas. Airgas really is not the place you want to get it. I get this one in my area here in the Northeast from Granite Industrial Gases. Like I said, it was about 200 bucks for this cylinder, and I've had it for about 5 years now. So you got your machine, you've got your argon cylinder, that's two. The next thing that you're gonna need is a helmet. So if I can give you guys one bit of advice, it is that you do not need a fancy helmet. All right, this is a probably $60 Huntsman hood. I think it's Huntsman. The sticker long since fell off. But this is basically made out of like a composite, almost like a cardboard, like a really stiff cardboard. It weighs almost nothing. I have had this for my entire welding career. It takes a normal 2x4 welding lens. In this case, this is actually an auto darkening lens, but you don't have to get an auto darkening, but it does make it a little bit easier. Basically means you can see through it until you start welding, and then it darkens automatically. This is a $60 hood, and I promise you, you can get by with a hood like this, and not even just get by, but it's a decent hood, and it does everything that it needs to do. I've never seen a need to replace it, so I'm still using this same Huntsman hood that I have had forever. And I recommend you get, if you're going to spend money on something, spend money on a nice lens and put it in whatever hood you've got, because the hood is not the part that matters. So you've got your hood, you've got your argon cylinder, you've got your machine. You are almost all the way there. You've only got 2 other items that you need. The next one is filler wire. Now, I have a bunch of different filler wire. You can see I've got written on here ER70S2. This is mild steel wire. This is the wire that you are going to want to buy first. This is the diameter of the wire. You see it says 1/16. For what we do with motorcycles, 1/16 filler wire, ER70S2, this is what you would use to put a hardtail together. If you were doing, in fact, that is what I used to put that hardtail together. This is mild steel wire. I like the 1/16 diameter. I actually have to put more in there, but this is the same 1/16 diameter. It's pretty thin, but it's really all you need because motorcycle tubing is only 1/8 inch. So get yourself probably 5 pounds of ER70S2. These right here, these red containers, you can see how much is in them. This is a 10-pound container of filler wire. I've had that container since I started welding. It takes a while to go through that much welding wire. So buy a 5-pound to get yourself started. And then after that, you can move on to collecting all the other ones. This is 4043. This is aluminum. This is 308 for stainless steel. And then over there in my, you can see I got another specialty wire thing over there. That's got silicon bronze in it. There's a bunch of different wires that you can have. But for the sake of this video, like I said, ER70S2. That's what you're looking for. All right, so you've got your helmet, you've got your filler wire, you've got your machine, and you've got your argon tank. The last thing that you need to start TIG welding is this little guy, your tungsten. So the tungsten is where the current runs through the TIG torch and into the metal. Now this tungsten is a 332 diameter, and this is a 2% lanthanated tungsten. Now, there's lots of different types of tungsten. It is hotly debated, but my personal opinion, 2% lanthanated is my favorite. If I had to pick a second favorite, it's called E3. So either 2% lanthanated, which is blue, or E3, which is purple, is what you want to go with. Get it in the 332 diameter. That's perfect for motorcycle work and everything that the people who are watching this channel are likely to be getting up to. And this will handle all the way up to 200 amps. This being a 200 amp machine, that is as much amperage as you could push through it. So 332 tungsten in either 2% lanthanated or E3. All right, guys, so that's your 5 basic items that you need to get started with TIG welding. Just to recap, you need a machine, you need your argon cylinder, you're going to need a helmet, filler wire, and tungsten. With those 5 things, you can start TIG welding today and working on your skills. But like I said in the beginning of the video, there are 5 more things that later on down the road you might want to invest in because it'll make your TIG welding life and experience so much easier. So I'll take you through those 5 things now. They're not expensive things, little things here and there down the road. When you're ready to pick them up, grab yourself some and you're going to thank yourself. All right, so the first thing on that list of nice to have items is these little strong hand tools, movable magnets. These basically, it's just you got a magnet here on the back and then these 2 can rotate. And what's handy with these is, say you have something you're trying to weld and you just can't get it to lay flat. Just for the sake of this example, we've got this hammer. right? Something that's awkward shaped and that you need to, say, put a weld on something over here, and you can't quite hold it the way you need to. These magnets can sort of bend and twist to whatever shape you need so that you're able to fixture this hammer pretty much any way that you would need to. I love these little magnets, super handy, and I think they were only 30 bucks. All right, so the next thing that's one of those nice to have type items, this is a stubby gas lens. So basically, this is what comes on your standard TIG torch. It's this collet, the tungsten goes through the collet, and then this cup goes on the tip. And then your tungsten's coming through it and sticking out the front. This is your standard TIG cup setup. What the stubby gas lens does is two things. One, it's got a little wire mesh in here, and this helps to diffuse the argon that's coming through it and make it a little cleaner. And two, once it goes inside here, screw this in for you, you can see that it's a lot shorter than the standard type of cup. Now, when you're just looking at these pieces, it's hard to understand why that would matter. So let me get you the actual TIG torches themselves. So here, we've got your standard 17 series, which is basically your normal size TIG torch, right? This is a slightly wider cup that I happen to have on it, but as far as the length, it's the same length as your standard cup. Now, once you go with the stubby, what you get is this. Excuse me, this is an actual torch switch. Click, click, for starting and ending your arc, so don't worry about that. But just look at the size difference in these two cups. So you've got almost an extra 2 inches between here and here. So when you're actually working with the TIG torch, right, you're holding it in your hand and you're running a bead on this torch, you can really get right up there next to the tip and follow it right along. Think about writing with a pencil. You don't hold a pencil out here from the back. So when you have this giant torch like this, it's really difficult to even rest your hand on the surface because the torch is so long that it's almost forcing you to pick your palm up just to be able to get the torch pointed in the right direction. Whereas with a nice stubby gas lens like this, you can be resting on your palm and working just like that. So a stubby gas lens, and I'll put a link in the description to one on Amazon that's, I believe, less than $20. Great investment for your torch. So this is something I touched on in the earlier part about the helmet, but the next upgrade that I think is worth your money is a auto darkening lens, in a good quality auto darkening lens. This one right here is an Arc 1. It's made by, well, they call it the Tradesman right here, but it's made by a company called Arc 1, and I'll leave a link to this lens in the description box. This is like a $50 or $60 lens, and I'm telling you, I have been welding for about 6 years now, and I cannot tell you how many people I know whose welding helmets fail them while they're working, and they end up missing time because all of a sudden they can't weld for the rest of the day. I have never put a battery in this lens, and I have never had to do anything to it. It just plain works. So pick up yourself a good quality auto darkening lens. So this next piece that's a good upgrade down the line is something you might not even realize you need. This is called a TIG finger. Now mine's a little chewed up because I've been using it for 6 years, but honestly, the fact that it's held up this long is pretty incredible. What this is basically a double-sided piece of sill temp that is stitched so that it can go over your finger. You've got a double side on the bottom and a single side on the top. Now, this is made by Jody Collier of the Welding Tips and Tricks YouTube channel, also weldmonger.com. Super great guy, taught half the world how to weld, certainly taught me how to weld. Super appreciate all his videos. This TIG finger is designed so that, let me pop it on here, so that if you're welding on a pipe or a test plate or anything you happen to be working on, let's say you're making a custom exhaust and you're welding your way around this pipe is going to get scalding hot. This TIG finger slips over your glove and lets you prop right on the piece so you can stay nice and stable as you move around it without burning your glove or singeing your finger, because every welder knows you've ruined many a pair of gloves by keeping them too close to what you're trying to weld on. These TIG fingers are like, I want to say $20, and they even sells a 2-pack in different sizes. So definitely worth picking one of these up if you're going to be doing hardtails or anything where you're doing a sort of a radial motion like that, because it's so much easier to be able to keep your hand on the actual piece. All right, guys, and to finish this one out, the 5th piece that is a nice add-on down the road is this Furic Jazzy 10 cup. So basically what this is if you look at these two, you can see this is a, boy, it's so worn down, you might not even have it anymore. This is an 8 stubby cup, right? Let me spin this off and show you how this works. So inside of the cup, you've got the gas lens. The argon comes through here and it comes out through the cup. Now this is just a slightly wider version of this cup, but it's got its own mesh screen inside of it. And now this is super handy when you're doing stainless, where you really want that weld to be shielded by that argon and covered. You need a slightly bigger cup. And this Jazzy 10, if I could do this on camera here, slips right on here, right onto my TIG torch. No separate adapter is required. Put it on there like that. And what this lets you do is get an even longer stick out. So if you're working on a hardtail, right, and you can't quite get down into a corner, this extra space of the shielding gas covering your weld puddle will let you poke that tungsten way out there, and you crank your argon flow up a little bit, and that'll let you get down into like a triangle joint just like that. Really, really handy piece of kit. I've had this single cup for probably 4 years now, and unlike the glass ones that you see on Instagram all the time, if you drop these, you got a much better chance of this thing not breaking on you than those cheap glass ones. I'm telling you right now, avoid the glass ones altogether. If you want to get a fancy cup, this Jazzy 10 is great. He also makes a 12 and a 16. I've never had a need to go that big with any of them. This 10 is the perfect sweet spot. All right, guys, so just to recap, today we covered the 5 basic items that you need to get started in TIG welding. You need your machine, your argon cylinder, your helmet, your tungsten, and your filler wire. In addition, we went over 5 items that are nice to have things that you could pick up later on once you've already got the basics. If you're liking these videos, please give the channel a subscribe, give the video a like, share it with your friends. I'm really looking forward to bringing you guys some more fab specific videos and tutorials. Today, I wanted to put this out there as a very basic 101 how to get started. And then from here, we can break down welding techniques, how to do common jobs on the bike. I'll be getting into a stainless pie cut exhaust very, very soon as well. So there'll be a lot more the technical side in videos to come. But for now, you know how you can get started, what machine, all the basics. So thanks again for checking out the channel. If you didn't catch it, I did a video on a sight gauge install. That'll be a technical welding one, as well as a maintenance related video on how to convert your bike to points ignition. So I'll link those 2 videos right here so you can check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next week.